Hi folks, my name is Lee Boyle, and welcome to Nursery, a podcast about anything you'd like. I'm your host, and let me just give you a little tiny introduction as to why I'm doing this whole thing. I am part of the Ohio art scene, whatever you want to call it, in Northeast Ohio. I'm from the Youngstown area. There's not that much going on here, but what is going on here I feel is important. So I just felt like maybe if I did a small podcast where I talked to some of my friends, creative people, and I don't mean just with painting and music, I mean in all walks of life, just good people, good personalities. If I brought them to your ear, maybe they would have a story or two that might help you through your day. We're not looking to work miracles, but if you're going through something, and it could be anything, if I have a friend that I interview on here and they just tell the right story, it might turn your whole day around. So throughout this, I'm going to be plugging my band, Third Class. I'm in a band with two of my best friends. We've been in the same band since 1999. You can hear our music at thirdclass.net. And then also Bullskit Productions. I'm in a comedy troupe. We upload videos online and try to make you laugh. You can look at those videos at bullskit.com. Many other artists, many other projects, many other things I would love to incorporate into this podcast, and I will incorporate as much as I can to entertain you in this podcast. So, Nursery, a podcast about whatever you'd like. My first guest today will be my wife, Ellen Frost. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we bring her in. She is my wife. She's awesome. She takes great care of me, and she is the polar opposite of me, personality-wise. Polar opposite. My heart is in music, writing, poetry, comedy, that kind of thing. You know the type. Ellen, her heart is actually in her work. I work a job. I love my job, but it's a job to support, like, trying to make a song that will change somebody's day or trying to make somebody laugh. It's that kind of thing. But Ellen, she's a labor... That's my dog Jeremy in the background, by the way. He's a little pug who likes to chase his tail and bite people. He's an awesome guy. Anyways, Ellen, her job is a labor and delivery nurse, and her heart is in her job. She's smart. She went to school to become a nurse. She, knocked it out of the park, got an awesome job, and once you have a job like that, your heart goes into it. You're bringing new life into the world. It just makes sense. But she's good for me because she's the business end of the relationship. I can't stress that enough. She's the business end of the relationship. I'm good for her because I get her to maybe try some new things and maybe, just do some creative things that might be therapeutic for her. And she's good for me because she gets me to think about the future. She gets me to grow up and things like that. It's just a good back and forth, and we have good days, we have bad days. We've been married since 2009. We've been dating since 2003, so we've been around each other a long time, and some days good, some days bad. We get through. We have a good time when we can. So without further ado, I invite you to enjoy Nursery, a podcast about whatever you'd like. Thank you.
The nursery and all of the trees crossed over the dark, and some old parking lots hold my whimpering thoughts, and I'm on the next train. You and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
Okay, so we're here at Nursery. This is my wife, Ellen Kathleen Frost. So do you want to tell them a little? That's Jeremy. He needs all the attention all the time. He was in the intro too. Do you want to tell me why we're calling it Nursery? Like what you think of when you hear the name Nursery?
I grew up on a tree farm in Columbiana, Ohio. It was about 100 acres. My great-grandfather and then my grandfather and my father all ran the business. So I kind of grew up playing in trees. It was the best childhood you could ask for. So I grew up there, and then my husband and I lived there from 2006 to 2014 in a house that we rented from my parents. So just a special place in our heart. A little bit sad, but my father drives for FedEx now, and they got rid of a lot of the trees, and now they grow corn. They lease it out to farmers to grow corn and soybeans on.
Sorry, that's Jeremy in the background. You guys will just have to deal with that because we don't want to leave him alone because we both just got home from work. But yeah, so you grew up with family that worked in a tree nursery. And
Yep.
so that's one of the big reasons why we're calling this nursery. Another tiny little reason is because Ellen was thinking about starting a restaurant someday, and it could still happen, although she's definitely married to the nursing game right now, and it's a really good thing. But our friend Mike said, if you start a cafe or a restaurant, you should call it Nursery. And that was kind of at the idea that I actually wrote a song with my friends in third class called Nursery, and it's this song that is about me and Ellen when we met each other. It's about me and my friends and the things we love and our fears, and just a very romantic winter song that just works in a lot of situations that we play at a lot of shows. And so the song, Ellen's family, us living on the nursery, are only just a few of the reasons why we thought that might be a good name for the podcast. I'm going to ask Ellen more questions, but I just wanted to look at a couple of definitions for nursery. One of the most obvious ones is room set apart for children, and of course that works on a lot of levels because I'm a child, and you know, with those listeners out there who have kids, or any of Ellen and myself included, anybody who aspires. Maybe they don't know if they'll have kids, maybe they will, maybe they won't. Just children in general, just to have a child's mindset in doing things like these conversations is a good way to stay loose, to keep it interesting. You can learn a lot from children, whether they're directly in your life or whether you do what Ellen and I did, where we worked at a camp in the summer of 2013 where we worked with a lot of kids from Seattle. We worked in Washington. Ellen was the nurse there, and now she works with babies as a nurse in Youngstown. And kids are always going to be a large part of our life, one way or the other. Secondly, a school or daycare. That kind of applies to the first definition. Third definition is place where young trees are raised. So, of course, we already went over that. Then 4 and 5, that's where it gets nice and wishy-washy, and that's where we can apply it to this podcast. 4 is any place in which something is bred, nourished, or fostered. The example sentence given in the dictionary is, the Art Institute has been the nursery of much great painting, which is awesome, because that's what we're going for. This is going to be a nursery of much great conversation. And then number 5 definition. A nursery is any situation, condition, circumstance, practice, etc., serving to breed or foster something. So very similar to definition number 4. But then the example sentence they give is, slums are nurseries for young criminals, which is such a downer. But anyhow, that's just a little insight of the nursery. So I'm going to get back to letting Ellen talk. So my first question for you, though it's very general, just what do you think of Ohio?
I love Ohio. When I think about Ohio, I mainly think about the Northeast Ohio region because that's where we're from. We're from Youngstown, Ohio. Lee is from East Palestine, and I'm from Columbiana, which are both about 30-45 minutes out of Youngstown. I love the location in terms of you can be in New York City, you can be in Chicago, you can be in DC, all short day trips to get there. Lee and I have taken a lot of trips to Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, all over. It's just an extremely accessible state to get to a lot of states on the east and the middle of the United States. It's beautiful. I love the 4 distinct seasons that we have. There's a lot of beautiful waterfalls, as well as thinking about the Northeast Ohio region. Lee and I and a large group of our friends like to take trips down to Hocking Hills in southern Ohio. A lot of beautiful caves, rock formations, waterfalls. I don't know. I think it's an extremely beautiful state. I love living here. I have thought about living in other states, but Lee's pretty married to the area in terms of the music scene here.
Which is a totally weird statement, because everybody knows you're supposed to move to like New York or something. So I don't know what it is about Ohio. Ellen and I are both well traveled, but I don't know why. I just keep us here because all our friends and family are here, and the music scene's so tiny. You don't make any money, but they just care so much, and there's just something about it. But go on.
And I could never live in a city. I mean, not even like Cleveland or Pittsburgh city. Just growing up on a tree farm and having that freedom and the land, and I have lived in cities before for periods of time. I was a nanny in New York City. I taught English in Seoul, South Korea, and then Lee and I both worked at a camp 2 summers ago in Granite Falls, Washington. And while the camp itself wasn't in a city, we spent a large majority of our time off in Seattle and the Ballard area specifically.
Which is awesome. You can just whisper that there's a basement show and 50 people show up.
But cities are great. I'm just a kind of small town country girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really shows, because Ellen and I are in an exciting time in our life. We just moved to the Youngstown, Ohio area from Columbiana, Ohio, which is closer to Pennsylvania. And we just got a puppy, Jeremy, who you're going to hear in the background of all these podcasts. And first house we ever bought, first dog we ever bought, and new jobs since we got back from that camp. It's all like pretty exciting. And so like being both very well traveled, it does say something that we ended up still being in Ohio, because we definitely economically, like most people, could have gone somewhere else. We really just like it here a lot, and it's definitely me first and foremost who's like, I don't want to go anywhere, I want to stay here and stay with my friends, I don't want to change or be any. That's a voice I do sometimes. I don't want to change or be anything different, but it's not because I don't want to learn new things. It's just because I know that we have a nice support system here, and we travel a lot. My brothers, lots of my friends end up traveling for a few months out of the year, living different places, but we always come back to each other and spend time with the people we love, and it always works out. So I have no qualms about going places and doing new things. I just like having our roots here. Okay, second question. What religion are you?
I would consider myself a Christian, although I am not a member of any church. I grew up in a Baptist church in Boardman, Ohio.
Can you lean in just a little when you're talking? Sorry.
Sure.
Jessica.
To be honest with you, I'm not a very religious person. I believe in God. I believe in prayer. I think that church, that the community, the support is phenomenal. I work at a Catholic hospital, and I like that prayer is incorporated into our report in the morning at change of shift. I like that there's prayer over the intercom at certain times of day. I'm very open to all religions. I guess I'm just not that biased on it.
That's good. Another way Ellen and I are different that I mentioned in my intro to this podcast is religiously. It's not that we're at odds, really, but I'm more of as you could probably guess, being a musician and an art person, I'm agnostic. Person who doesn't choose sides. And there's not really, in my eyes, I don't feel too different from Unitarian who accepts all religions and Christianity, Buddhism, a lot of things. Like a lot of people, I see the good in a lot of it. And neither of us are really hung up on there, so there's not really any conflict about that. An interesting, fun fact, not that either of us really know what's going on in the world, but we're not, politically savvy, but it's kind of neat. Ellen's actually a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and that's another way that we're kind of have that opposites attract kind of classic quality. I'm not trying to sell that to you listeners. I'm just trying to say that's an interesting thing. If you happen to have a friend who's different from you, or a lover that's different from you, or anybody in your life that you have a relationship with of any way, if they're different, finding the beauty in that can be a good thing. Sometimes you're too different, and that's a different thing, but sometimes you just have to try a little bit and find that beauty in the differences, and sometimes it can work. Going back to the nursery days when you were young, do you have any good stories from when you were a kid or anything? It doesn't have to be a happy story or anything, but I know that you spent a lot of time in the woods when you were young, and you'd catch crawfish in the creek and classic Ohio type things. Do you have any, I don't know, you have any adventures or anything like that happened? Or
I don't know. I feel like my childhood, pretty much every day was an adventure. As soon as I got home from school, we were playing outside. Obviously, there was no iPhones, iPads. There were video games, but my parents did not let us play video games. I think the closest thing we got to a video game was a Speak and Spell when I was little.
That's something we have in common. Neither of us had TV or video games much when we were young.
So I really was outside all the time. Behind our house was a woods with a stream in it that had a clay bottom. So I actually would take the clay and play with the clay. I would try to catch fish, try to catch crawdads, be exploring flowers. There were always snowdrops, daffodils, tulips, all kinds of stuff in the springtime. There are mayaples. So always playing in the woods, playing outside until we were called in to eat dinner. It was just a phenomenally magical place for a child to be. There were areas where trees were overgrown and your imagination could just absolutely run wild. But I had 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest. And I don't know, it's just, playing outside, there's nothing that replaces it, but I just feel very fortunate for the childhood that I had.
Yeah, and we can say that now, not because I don't think it happens less now, but as a substitute teacher, I do that on the side. As far as I work at a produce company, fruits and vegetables, otherwise. But once in a while I substitute teach, and some of the kids in school I see now, they drink energy drinks, they drink coffee, and they play video games. And they just one look at them tells you they're just inside a lot. And I know these kids existed in some other form when we were young, but Ellen and I are both very lucky to have lived a lot of our lives outside when we were kids. And it's just fun, just trying to build things out of sticks and getting dirty and just good things like that every kid likes. Nobody hates doing that stuff. And what was I gonna say?
Even now, I know it's wintertime now, I was just thinking about even not just at my house, but when I would go to my grandma and grandpa Curl's house, my mom's parents' house, we would go sledding down this insane crazy hill on old wooden sleds, through a cow pasture. It was just the most fun ever. And my mom is the next to youngest of 7 children, so I had all kinds of cousins to play with there. And sledding was insanely fun. And then we'd just be out all day long until we were completely frozen and had to come in for hot chocolate.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's awesome because I'm 30, Ellen's 29. We're not old people by any means, but you hear people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s talking about how they can't stand seeing say the parent with the kid on the leash, or the places where kids aren't allowed anymore because one kid died or got hurt, and they're always like, when I was young, there was a kid that went down and we lost our cousin off the sled and he got lost in the thorns and we never saw him again, and that was just how it was, and no one questioned. And people say that kind of stuff, and sometimes you just feel that way. You're like, yeah, just let me go sled riding on whatever hill I want. Don't block off this creek. I want to swing into it from a tire swing. I want to do, like, more and more. Like, I do start feeling that just at 30. I start feeling like, oh man, you can't just go and swim in a lake anymore. It's now a national preserve or a nature preserve. Or, no, you can't touch that with your bare foot and swim there. And it does get a little ridiculous, no matter where you come from politically, religiously. Like, the fact is, anybody, when they were younger, had more access to more nature than they do now. I can't imagine what it must have been like in the 50s or earlier, 60s, 70s, or way earlier in the 1800s, 1700s, whenever, when people could, excuse me, I have the hiccups now, could just go and just roll down any hill, swim in any creek. And being in rural Ohio, we still definitely have more option than a lot of people do. There's still not that much regulation going on, but it's definitely something to think about as you get older and you see changing in different ways in different generations. I gotta have my mom talk on this podcast sometime. She'd probably have some good stories. She's one of those classic moms that, like, now she won't go anywhere and she won't even drive herself half the time because she's scared. But sure enough, Jeremy, stop it. Sure enough, she's got that crazy. I went on a road trip, hitchhiked through France, slept on park benches. She went to Woodstock and marched on the White House, and like, it's just classic mom. Don't go spend the night at your friend's house. When she went and spent the night out on a park bench in France somewhere when she was a kid. Jeremy, stop it. Hey, come here. Shh. He's a pug, so he sneezes a lot. Stop it.
He really likes to try to get your socks off of your feet. You can totally tell he's getting new teeth. He teethes every now and then. But he just wants to chew on stuff, and he knows he's not supposed to, because if you say stop biting, he'll just look all guilty and look at you and give you kisses on your face.
Mm-hmm. We got this pug, Jeremy, in May of 2014. The date today, I guess I should have said earlier.
You got the puppy in July.
2013. Oh yeah, we got the house in May. Yeah, so he's young, because the date today is actually January 4th?
4th, yes.
4th.
It's January 5th now.
It's January 5th, 2015 is today. So, yeah, Jeremy is a little puppy still. He's, 7 months old or whatever, something like that. So hopefully he just grows a little. He's tiny. He can stop it, Jeremy. You can step on him by accident and stuff, and he's 10 pounds or something like that, but we want him to be like 15 or 20. We want him to be like that little chubby pug that you're supposed to be, but it looks like he might just look like a puppy his whole life. So it's going to be weird. Are you on Facebook right now while we're doing this?
No.
Oh, man.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so as a kid, what do you think it would have been like if you and me knew each other when we were young? Ellen and I met when we were about 18.
I think we would have got along really well. I don't know. I obviously was friends with Peppy, and he was your best friend, so I think we would have got along well. I think...
And Peppy's in the band Third Class with me, and he's a longtime friend since I've met him in 1996. But go on. Sorry.
I think if our paths collided when we were children, it would have been because both of our moms took us to the library.
Yeah.
To story hour. We just probably were at Columbiana Library and East Palestine Library.
There were times where we were probably in the same room at the same time. We never knew.
Yeah.
I'm sure. We both lived in the same county and had probably the same football games or something like that,
Yeah, probably.
And some similar things about us. We both definitely were we weren't necessarily people that like participated in all the extracurricular activities in school or anything. We definitely had that in common. Maybe if somebody like were to generalize the cliques in school, Ellen and I would have been in similar ones. Her, our friend Peppy, both my brothers, were always in somewhere between geek and slacker like thing. Not to be negative, but we were always in the none of the above category, I think. And not to act like we were cooler. High school was rough for me, and I definitely wanted nothing more than to like just be a normal person and like have people pay attention to me. But I, you know, like I talk forever now. But when I was in high school, I didn't say a word to anybody. I turned red the minute somebody asked me a question, and like I'm a completely different person today now. So for any of you guys, if there's anybody here listening who's like a shy person, it can change. It can change for you. It changed for me, and I like myself better now that I talk.
Can it change back?
Now she wants it to change back because I just keep rambling. That's one of the things about me is all my friends just roll their eyes at me because I just talk so much now. So it's almost gotten to the other end of it where it's gotten weird. But they, you know, I love them and they love me, and it's a good relationship. But yeah, man, I am just the ringleader now. I talk and talk, and I'm
He could overanalyze anything.
Yeah.
Like you could drop a Frito on the floor, and he could overanalyze the meaning of the dropped Frito. I just pick the Frito up and eat it.
Yeah. And that goes back to what I introed. Ellen and I are different in that she's got the business end of things down, and I've got the creative end, so it's a good balance. But that being said, I don't really mean that in all regards. Ellen is one of those people that'll buy like a Trapper Keeper or like a notebook and be like, yeah.
I haven't bought a Trapper Keeper since the 90s.
Yeah,
For the record.
Not a Trapper.
I own no Trapper Keepers.
It's just fun to say Trapper Keeper. Of course she hasn't bought a Trapper Keeper. I just wanted to say it because it's fun. I embellish for the purposes of comedy, but I'm not crazy. I know she didn't actually buy a Trapper Keeper. Okay, well, this is what she does. She buys a notebook, or a piece, or notebook, or a folder, and she's like, I'm going to organize my nursing stuff in here. I'm going to organize our bills in here. I'm going to organize our next road trip in here. And like, she writes one word in the notebook and then sets it down. And then I pick it up 8 years later and start writing songs in it. Same deal. It's like she buys this little folder, you know, the type. Stop it, Jeremy. You know the types I'm talking about, where it's like a folder with a little string that closes it. Like it's like, here's my little organizational, and it has like, then it'll either have one paper in it and she doesn't use it, or it has a ton of paper in it. And I opened it up one day out of the attic or something, and I'm like, did she need this? Like, this is really important looking. It looks like, oh, there's that old tax paper I needed last year that I can, and like stuff like that. So like, God, we're boring. But
All right, first of all, I want to defend myself here. Yes, I like to buy notebooks and I like to buy folders. I most recently bought folders that already have things organized in them for just a little side business I'm doing, being a doula. I have just started out in it.
Tell them what a doula is. That's not that common.
Well, first,
Here,
I want to explain that I'm a labor and delivery nurse at a high-risk labor and delivery unit. And in addition to that, I just took a class, a 2-day training to be a doula. A doula is a support person during labor for the mom. And I've actually found it to be extremely helpful for the dad or partner as well. Because oftentimes they haven't taken classes, they're scared, they don't exactly know what their role is, and they need a little guidance. But it is just physical, emotional support. As a doula, I can't even take a temperature, a blood pressure, nothing medical. I have had very good results with all the ones I've done so far. I'm not going to pursue it heavily because I work for 3 to 11 shifts, as a labor and delivery nurse, I have call
Here, why
shifts.
don't you turn around
I
and
have
punch over a little?
mandations where I have to stay if staffing hits certain points, if we have so many patients. So Lee and I are always too busy. We're always overbooked. But getting back to the point,
You're basically saying...
I just recently bought green folders from my Sweet Pea Doula business,
Yeah.
which have things in them and is organized. And I have 2 people that I need to give the 3 folders to. One of the things he's talking about has all my continuing education credits for nursing,
Yeah.
all of the thank you notes, all of the recommendations, all my nursing stuff in one. And I do need to get rid of some stuff from nursing school. He's more than welcome to take any notebook he wants to write lyrics in, because he is actually going to use every single sheet of paper in there to either write a song, a poem, a short story, or something. He is absolutely practical. I am trying...
Yeah, it's practical to write short stories and
I
poems as
am
opposed to
trying
educate. No, you're right.
to
See, we're taking
simplify.
each other's sides now.
I am trying to simplify stuff and organize. We bought a 744 square foot house in May, so we really had to get rid of a lot of stuff before we moved here.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's
We
another
have
thing.
No garage.
Buying a
with-
small house, we cannot more highly recommend that. That is awesome. It forces you to keep it clean and somewhat organized. But what you're saying, the long and the short is, yes, you buy too many notebooks, but your point is that they're always for good, like real things, like good uses. Doula is an important job. Like it's always to organize like real things in your life. I'll take that point.
Plus, I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old niece who, when they come
Yeah.
over, I have paper, I have folders, I have
Yeah, and they can color on.
colored pencils, crayons.
They can color all over my songs. They can just color right all over my songs. I don't care. No, I'm just
Yep.
kidding. No, they don't do that. No, they're awesome. We have them over and we watch movies with them, and we let them play the keyboard and the drum set that are here and stuff. And it's really fun to hang out with our nieces.
But I do need to organize stuff. I do have...
We were watching Jerry Seinfeld most recent appearance on the Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon hosted Tonight Show, and Jerry Seinfeld did this whole... Ellen and I actually have seen him twice live in Youngstown do stand-up, and we actually were lucky enough to get to meet him.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
He was sick.
Yeah, he was sick when he did his set, when we saw him in Youngstown, and he knocked it out of the park. It was like, somehow he's just so good. He had this, like, his voice was all, like, scratchy because you could tell he had some sort of cold or sore throat. And all he did was just play it to the jokes. He played on his voice. Like, his register just went up that much higher in order for him to break through his scratchy voice to deliver the lines. And it actually kind of made the show funnier inadvertently. He, like, had this weird, like... What's the deal? Yeah, I can't do his... But he's awesome. But anyways, he had this set about garbage.
In the garage.
Yeah, he was like talking about how garbage, there's these few steps to... that all things are garbage. When you buy things, they are garbage. And he said, the place of pride is the kitchen table, then it's the cupboard or drawer, then it's the garage. Sometimes they're lucky enough to get back to eBay, but the garage is usually the final resting place. He said his ideal shopping experience would be to purchase an item and turn around and throw it in the garbage can, because that's where everything ends up anyways. And maybe I was drawn to that stand-up experience because of the things I give Ellen a hard time about. But it's nothing that I take too seriously. It's just something that, surprisingly enough, that I'm organized about. It's like, that's what's weird about us. We don't know what spots we're going to be able to be organized compared to the other about. It's always surprising. She's really organized as far as career goes. I've had like a couple different jobs. But then for some reason we get to the house and I'm like, we need to clean this up. Put this here. This needs to go here. This doesn't go in that drawer. So I don't know. It's so different. I didn't mention this in the intro, but I make Ellen once in a while listen to this podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. filmmaker Kevin Smith, who made Clerks and a lot of other good movies, and his friend and co-actor Jason Mewes, who plays Jay. They both play Jay and Silent Bob. They have this podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, where they have this thing called an intervention podcast, where Jason Mewes stays sober. He had a past of using hard drugs and just having a hard time with his life, and they use the podcast to have him be accountable to fans and listeners of the podcast, and he tells how many days he's been sober in it. And a lot of the podcasts they sometimes they do Q&A, and a lot of the things that Kevin Smith says is they are always along the line of encouraging fans to make their own podcast. So some of the reason that we're doing this, is obviously therapy, for us and for the listener, like I mentioned before, but also just they inspired me. We may not have as serious problems as hard drug use in our past, but any problems we might have sometimes can just incidentally be talked through in the form of a podcast. What do you think about that, Ellen? Do you think there's truth to that, or do you think it's just kind of goofing off and there's not really going to be much done? What do you think of podcasts in general as do you think they're useful in a therapeutic manner?
I think they're useful. I really don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Lee makes me listen to them sometimes. And
but I've seen you
the
get
majority
really
of the time I really enjoy them.
I've seen you get really engaged.
I like them. But like I said, it's just not something that I have really listened to. I am that obnoxious person that listens to oldies or greatest hit stations on the radio and get mad when Lee has to put his line in and plug his phone in and go through this long playlist to get the perfect song for a 10-minute drive. I'm just I just want to be listening to Walk Like an Egyptian right now and not thinking.
Yeah.
So I like that it makes you think. I really like the Jay and Silent Bob, that he's being sober, because getting off those kind of drugs is an amazing accomplishment, and I think the support and accountability really makes it an interesting thing. I do think it's really therapeutic just to talk and be heard and listened to. But I would like to listen to more. Lee just started playing one for me the other day about Call the Midwife, and I thought that was really interesting. I don't have ADD or anything, but I feel like I'm easily distracted, and I was calling and renewing my nursing insurance for the year of 2015 on the phone and not paying attention. So I really feel like this year I would like to listen to more podcasts and be more in the moment. I am definitely that person that is completely 100% guilty of being on their phone. And I'll notice busy days at work, and I don't tend to go on my phone while I'm at work unless I'm on break. But when I get home, I want to look at Instagram, Facebook. Just recently, Trivia Crack. I want to play Trivia Crack. It's like a drug. So not a horrible, but it's a vice that I have. And talking about being outside so much when I was a kid, we live very close to Mill Creek Park in the summertime. We've gone kayaking quite a few times and walking and
That's
kind of
been really
exploring
good,
the
yeah.
rose gardens and stuff. So we have so much nature and beauty right next to us. We just need to open our eyes and engage more in that than just sitting around being glued to a device.
Yeah. Which, ironically, that's what we are now, but we're doing it to talk to you, and this is kind of a way for us to flesh out what have kind of culminated to be, say, a New Year's resolution type thing. Ellen and I both said we'd eat healthier, we said we're going to, Ellen said I'll be on my phone less, and things like that, and we had little things that we wanted to get done this year, and we always make realistic, like little specific New Year's resolutions. Like Ellen's, to give you an example, last year, I think it was last year, her resolution for 2013 was, or 2014, was to go to the dentist. It's as simple as that. And then you really
Did
get it done.
it?
Yep, you get
No,
it done.
I did someone else's New Year's resolution.
That was our friend Peppy.
Someone was like,
Yeah.
I need to go to the dentist, I need to go to the eye doctor, I can't remember what else he said. I was like, I'm going to do all of your resolutions.
Yeah,
and I
right.
did them the first week of January.
Yeah, I remember that. That was our friend Peppy, who I'm definitely going to have on this show. He was like, okay, Dennis going to go do this, and Ellen just went and did it, and I don't know if he did. I don't think he did it.
Probably all year long he didn't do it.
Yeah, he may have done it by now, but I don't think he did it in the year he said he was going to, which a lot of people don't, and I'm not going to rag on people who don't, but I think Ellen and I, we set these little resolutions, whether they're ours or an idea from somebody else, and we do them. To give you an example, this is so stupid, but like I said to Ellen, maybe what we should do this year is just not eat fries and cheeseburgers, which is like, this sounds so stupid, but the point is it's divergent from a few things you can easily get, but you can still, but the loophole is, someone says, do you want a Philly cheesesteak? We say, yes, I'll take it. I'll eat all that red meat with all that cheese on it right now, but cheeseburgers, they're like the simplest, easy thing to get like at midnight when no place else is open. And now Ellen and I have to hold ourselves to like, I'll get the chicken sandwich. I'm not going to get fries without have the broccoli on the side. But so it might sound funny, but it's something that works for me, and we're going to see if it works for Ellen, where you just take out like one or two little pieces of food from the menu of like desirables and you hope that it works. And I've been doing it for years. Like I say, Lee, you're not allowed to eat donuts anymore, I say to myself. It's so stupid, because if somebody puts this giant cinnamon roll with butter and like a stick of butter all over it and icing all over it, I just shove it down my face. But it's like donuts are more common than cinnamon rolls, so that's the beauty in it. Same deal. I said no energy drinks. Am I going to drink the hell out of some coffee? Yes. But I'm not going to chug a Red Bull at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? It's just little things. It's how to fool yourself into being moderate. Ellen and I both might have these addictive personalities. Her maybe with her phone, me with like, actually one of mine is salt. I eat too much salt.
I eat too much sugar.
Yeah, we have that. So we're just trying to stay away from some ice cream. We're not going to say no to those things, but we're just going to moderate and then say no to a couple small things and see what happens. So we're not trying to like turn it all around fast. We're just trying to slowly like take out the things that are harmful and then change it up every year. So I think it's a good thing. On the note of New Year's resolutions, we made this fun little skit that you can find on bullskit.com called Resolution. And we did it with a lot of our friends that we had a New Year's Eve party with one night, and it really turned out fun. All I did was set up a camera in the back room, kind of like a reality TV type thing. And what I did was I said, go in the other room and tell your resolution to the camera. It was like as if somebody's going in the other room to like be like, my roommates are stupid, like in Real World MTV or something. But they just went in the other room and said, this is my resolution. I told them, say whatever you want, make something up, make a joke out of it, whatever. So me and Ellen, Peppy, my brothers, Jack actually wasn't there because he had to work the next day, unfortunately. It's too
Lame.
bad. Yeah. He's a trooper as far as that goes. He's been working at like 6 a.m. most days of the week. But my youngest brother Steve was there, our friend Peppy, Mindy is our friend, Corey, one of our friends, Michelle, Julie, Carly, Greg, Brandon, Kate, his wife Katie. They brought their daughter Elliot.
That I delivered.
Yeah, Ellen delivered. It's awesome. She delivered one of our friends' babies, Elliot. And she's actually had that opportunity a couple times. She delivers people she knows, and you would think maybe initially that it would be awkward, but having somebody they know in the hospital is awesome.
And I always ask people if it's okay if I take care of them. If for any reason they're not comfortable, obviously they could have somebody else take care of them. Yeah,
she always checks, but more than not, a lot of our friends, we have friends Liz and Mike, who she delivered, and and a couple other people, acquaintances, friends. More times than not, they get over the, oh no, she's gonna see me, my business type thing, and they just say, you know what, better somebody I know than someone I don't. So it's a beautiful thing as far as getting to share an experience like that with your friends. I'm sure on both ends of the spectrum, whether you're the person delivering or the nurse delivery. But yeah, New Year's resolutions is our thing. We made a skit called Resolution on bullskit.com. You can check out. It's got a lot of our friends in it. It's a fun little 1 minute 30-second clip. And that's what we do. Anytime we're not working, we try to do something creative like this podcast or music or skits, just fun things. I twist Ellen's arm and drag her into skits, and one of our friends, Corey, a lot of times, he always is rolling his eyes at me, you make another skit, but then we put him in.
He's the funniest.
Yeah, then we put him in, and he's awesome. So, that's my job in this group, I think, is to just kind of edge people in new directions creatively and see if it does anything. Sometimes it's just me blowing hot air, but, most of the time, last night I had a rehearsal with my buddies in third class, and we played these old songs we hadn't played in a while. All we did was just change the rhythm, play it a little slower, and it was a blast. It's just, sometimes you just put this little tweak on something, and it brings out something new. So I hope this podcast does something for you guys listening, and
Sexually.
I hope this podcast does something sexually for you listening, because that's what the plan is.
Duh.
Because we're very much so wild and sexual sounding people, and not just people that talk about folder storage. And
Stop biting my toes.
she's talking to me, not Jeremy.
Stop biting my toes.
She's talking to me.
Stop it, Lee.
No, that's our stupid pug, Jeremy. He's awesome.
He's great.
Yeah.
Except when he's biting my toes.
Yeah. So what did we cover?
Jeremy, stop it. You behave yourself.
Jeremy, for the love of God, if you don't stop right now, I swear to God, I'm going to eat your head and then poop it right back out into the spot where I ripped it off from. That'll shut him up.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Okay. So what did we cover here? Ellen is a nurse. I'm a produce worker, musician, comedy person.
He's Mexican.
No, I'm not. Oh, you're saying produce. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's racist. But
Don't talk to me like that, you spick.
but she's letting the dog out. Who let the dogs? Sorry, shut up.
Oh my god.
So we covered Ellen's a nurse. That ties into the podcast being called Nursery nicely. We covered that she considers herself to be leaning towards the Christian faith, but it's very, very open. She's definitely the type that you might find in the Unitarian or agnostic mindset as well as Christian. She's very open. What else are we talking
I'm open to believing in God.
Okay, so she's not open. Well, that. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I just meant she's not usually offended by people who are atheists at all or anything like that. Yes, believing in God is a good thing overall. I definitely think I have not seen harm in it when people are moderate about it, for sure. It's obviously a lot of people, and this is more of a mainstream thought now, but a lot of people now, they're upset at evangelist Christians for being too strict and too fundamental, and that makes sense. It's not so much that they're doing it in Christianity, it's just that if you take anything beautiful and become too fundamental about it, it becomes something that is ugly. And I think that's the point. I don't know that Christianity itself needs scrutinized as much as the people that shove people down the throat. And, a lot of people have said it, but I just wanted to clarify that that's how Ellen and I kind of feel. It's not, we don't mean to shove, we don't like when people shove beliefs down anyone's throat. Other cheeseburgers, though, I do like when people shove those down my throat, and that's why we're trying to...
No cheeseburgers, 2015.
Yeah, we're not going to eat those, though. We're not going to eat those. Okay, maybe I'll ask you this third question. If you had to only listen to one song over and over again for the rest of your life, What would it be? Walk Like an Egyptian?
No.
What would it be? What do you think? If you now think carefully about this, I know you don't. You're
I'm
not.
gonna think carefully about this, but let's just focus on the main point that I don't know any songs' names, or
That's okay.
hardly can remember the artists that do the songs.
We'll figure it out. We're in a day and age where it's easier and easier not to know the artist because it's things like Spotify and Pandora. It's just hard to remember song names now. But think before you say your answer. This is not about the best song in the world. It's about the song that you think you would hate the least after hearing millions of times. And yes, you can turn it off and never listen to music again, but is that better or worse, you know?
Well, I think if I could like weasel my way into it, I'd try to like get like a whole symphony or something. Like
Oh,
I'd like
that's a good
or
answer.
like the longest classical song ever, so that I could have like the longest duration of music with different things, not just some like 5-minute song where I heard the lyrics repeated over and over again.
That is a really good answer. That would probably do the best for you because not only could you listen to it and find new things in it for a number of times, but you could put it on as background music and probably not notice what parts were coming up for at least a long time of listening. It's like if you purposefully chose a complicated symphony, like something insane.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't think it was awesome, maybe you would find something unpredictable in each listen.
I have a question for you. Involved in this question at another level, am I stranded on an island somewhere with a tennis ball? Or a volleyball, or whatever it was in that show. Just completely by myself.
Okay, so not only do you not know names of artists or songs, but you don't know the names of like masterpiece movies with like the #1 actor in the whole world.
Alright, it was Tom Hanks. I know it was Tom Hanks.
Castaway, yeah.
What was the name of the volleyball?
Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Do I get Wilson to listen to my song with me?
You know what? I guess you could be on an island, but my thought was like somehow you were just cursed not to be able to hear any other music but this song.
Oh, man.
Or maybe that's a little bit
Why are
too.
you so mean?
That's too abstract. Let's say it's an island. You just have this one like cassette with one song on it and one radio that for some reason doesn't go dead. Yeah, that's more realistic. So yeah, good answer. I guess you don't have to tell me a specific song. We could just say like a hour-long Chopin or Mozart or something would probably do.
Beethoven.
Do you in? Yeah, not do you in, but would settle you. Yeah, long Beethoven song. Any long Beethoven song, as long as it's
I
interesting.
changed my answer to the theme song from the movie Beethoven.
You mean Beethoven's Fifth? That is Beethoven.
No, I mean the movie about the dog.
Right. Oh, you mean Roll Over Beethoven?
Yeah, whatever.
Because they played Beethoven's Fifth in that movie too. It's funny you mentioned that. That's one of the first like movies I have in memory of actually going to the theater with like my family to see.
Mine was Jurassic Park.
Whoa, that's pretty hardcore for a kid who didn't watch TV to go straight to Jurassic Park. I think my first movie was Bambi. You're not saying Jurassic Park was your first movie?
It wasn't my first movie, but it's one of my first clear memories of going to the theater. My Uncle Bob took all 3 of us.
That'd be
We
awesome.
sat in the front row. It was
Wow.
fucking terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. I should say that Ellen and I are both pussies as far as movies go. Man, we are so horrible. Like, everybody else I know has become desensitized, and they're like, yeah, that's bloody, but it's not bloody enough. And, like, they watch zombie movies. Our friend Brandon, our friend Corey, like, but Ellen and I, man, we watch, like, Ellen watched Lord of the Rings with me, and she was hiding under a blanket.
Whatever, I just watched Annabelle.
Yeah, Ellen actually kind of not accidentally.
Watched
but-
World War Z.
Yeah.
Dude, zombies, terrifying dolls, people from cults. I covered my eyes half of the movie.
Right. But yeah, Ellen recently went and saw, this isn't a widely known movie, but a movie called Annabelle a few months ago with her friends from the hospital she works at. And they all went there, a bunch of girls she worked with, and watched this movie about a doll that's possessed by the devil, I think is the premise, or
Yeah.
something like that, called Annabelle. And just to give you an idea of how scary this movie was, we told our like horror buff friends about it, and they were like, "Oh, you watched Annabelle?" And they were even terrified. So I guess it's kind of like a pattern in Ellen's life to go from 0 to 10 on things like that. She's like, I didn't watch many movies at all. Then I watched Jurassic Park. I don't really watch it. I watch movies now, but I don't watch scary movies. Now I watched Annabelle. So it's like she goes 0 to 10 and scares herself into 2 nights of no sleep afterwards or something.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. So it's a good thing. Definitely a good thing overall. To just like maybe scare yourself out of the experience and just take it on.
And I don't know, I think like another theme we're going to kind of have in this podcast is just about simplifying your life, getting rid of a lot of stuff to move into a smaller house. I've been looking at a lot of articles recently about ways to simplify like your wardrobe, your home, and
by article she means Pinterest. No, I'm just kidding.
He's not kidding. He means Pinterest. But they
There's
have
nothing wrong
links
with
to
that.
legitimate articles or blogs or things like that.
There's nothing wrong with
which
that at
are
all.
just basically
Yeah.
different formats of what we're doing here.
Totally. I
but
totally agree. It's just
Our
funny
living
to say.
room is like exactly what they have in these articles about simplifying.
That's true.
Our living room has no TV in it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a record player. We have tons of records.
Yeah.
We have books. We have a couch and a chair with an ottoman all facing the fireplace. And then we have like a little coffee nook area with coffee and tea. And it's basically saying like right when you come in, you should feel relaxed immediately when you get in your house. There's not a lot of clutter. There's some stuff for our dog in a bin, but it's underneath and it's organized. It's not chaotic.
Yeah, and it's a good place. It's a good house to have as far as being simple. And don't get the wrong idea here. Ellen and I are not going to condescend to you about being simple. We're not like vinyl sounds better than CDs or digital. We don't have a TV because we don't watch TV. Don't get us wrong.
We have 2 TVs.
We love
just
TV.
not in the living room.
Yeah. We love TV. We watch TV. I listen to my iPod. I listen to tons of digital. It's nothing about going old school. It's just about like that's the room for like hanging out at parties.
Down the street, same old thing. You
We
did
did
last
last week.
week.
And it's the room for like conversation.
And-
It's the room to just totally like unplug and just listen to a record and listen to.
We had an amazing New Year's Eve party. We've
Yeah.
never had a New Year's Eve party before. And
Notice how Ellen doesn't even get fazed by me burping.
for once, used to that. For once, I just told people to come at like 9 o'clock at night. People came at like 10 o'clock at night.
It was good.
And it was great. We just relaxed. We all chilled in the living room. We hung out. We watched the ball drop and watched Times Square, like a live news feed. We did sparklers after midnight. We recorded our resolutions. Lee did and put a skit together. We had champagne at midnight. We had balloons. Like as soon as possible, our friend Peppy took Lee's playlist off, put his playlist in, so we could have a 2-hour dance party after midnight.
Yeah, he was like listening to mine, and he was like, "That one's okay." But then he like put on one that was like bumping, like awesome, like dance jams. Like it had a like that Bruno Mars song on it, Uptown Funk, and stuff like and just more upbeat, like fun pop, and that was really good. That was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, but it was nice for us because a few people were like, "Oh, we were just gonna like pop in and out, and then just like go to a bar or something." But it was cool that people a lot younger than us had a lot of fun and just stayed here until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it made us feel good, like that we were able to have a good time in our little house where we don't have very much, like it was actually fun that like it was basically just friends spending time that was keeping us all together. It wasn't like, oh, they have the New Year's Eve special on their giant big screen or any, all we did was we just had a couple live feeds of Times Square from earthcam.net or earthcam.com or something. and nobody paid much attention to that except for at the countdown. It was great. It was like all conversation. It was all dancing. It was all drinking and talking and having fun. And that's what life is about. And it's hard to get that stuff together sometimes. And we were lucky that night had such a nice spirit to it. Because there really wasn't much to it other than just like filming a few resolutions and sitting around hanging out. There was no formula. It was just like, that's why we want this podcast, because all those people, I want to have them on this podcast and have them talk, because they have good things to say that'll probably help you get through the day. That's why our tagline is a podcast about whatever you'd like, because we don't care where we go in this. We just want to talk. Jeremy, stop being a drama queen. He makes the weirdest noises. So I guess that's pretty good. I guess we probably are good. So any last thing you want to say before we tune out?
No. I'm good.
Okay. Thanks.
I feel like we need to have like a tagline, like I'm thinking
That's
like
the way-
Will Ferrell, like sign off of TV and Anchorman.
Oh,
Like, I
that
just
kind
feel
of
like we need to come up with like a closing. Keep it classy.
Right, something like that. Hi. Thank you all for listening to Nursery, and until next time,
That was good. Rock solid. We should end with that.
Okay. We'll figure it out. But anyways, this is our first one. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Ellen. And thank you guys for listening to Nursery.
Good night.
Have a good night.